Well, good morning and welcome to Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching the opening bell and I'm Santosh Nair. Well, in the spotlight today, we have the Bank of Japan, Japan Central Bank, which has finally thrown in its towel by signaling higher interest rates. Now, so far, Bank of Japan was the only outlier which had managed to keep a status quo on interest rates, even as other central banks across the globe were hiking rates. Now, at yesterday's policy, the Bank of Japan signaled that it would now allow the yields on its 10-year bonds to float in a band of 50 basis points on either side of its 0% target. Now, the initial target for Bank of Japan is 0% bond yield, but now it has said that bond yields can move up to 50 basis points on either side. So, why this is significant is that previously Bank of Japan had said that had kept this band at 25 basis points, and now it has increased it on the upside also. Now the bond yields can move up by 50 basis points. Now this obviously has repercussions beyond Japan as well. Already in Japan, stock prices took a beating and so did bond prices, but this has repercussions for other asset classes also. This is primarily because of something called the carry trade. Now, what happens is, because interest rates in Japan are so low, global investors typically tend to borrow in yen and then they convert those yen into dollars or whatever the local currency of the markets where they feel they are getting better returns. Now, this trade works well as long as interest rates on the yen are low, because what it helps these international investors achieve is that they can borrow at a very cheap cost and then deploy that money into assets in other emerging markets, which give them better returns. So this pushes up the asset prices in other emerging markets. Now, what happens when the interest rate on the yen goes up is that international investors will have to cut back on some of the position, because the cost of funds has gone up. This means that their returns will get squeezed, and typically when this happens, you see some kind of selling pressure in emerging market assets when these investors try to take out some of the money. We had seen one such instance in October 2008 in the aftermath of the global financial crisis. Well, that said, let's move on to the trade setup for this morning. Now, the SGX Nifty futures are indicating a firm start for the Nifty. Yesterday, benchmark indices Nifty and Sensex had closed in the negative territory, but they managed to close well off the lows for the day, and this morning so far sentiment is looking positive at this point. Wall Street has snapped a 4-session losing streak. However, the mood there still remains a little cautious. Now, Bill Gross, who is known as the bond king, he was formerly a fund manager with PIMCO. Bill Gross is also a very respected name when it comes to bonds. He said that the US economy is heading for an imminent recession, and he's also predicted that if the Federal Reserve continues to raise rates at the current pace, there could be chaos. So things not looking very pretty at this point in time. Meanwhile, the dollar index eased a bit to about 103.9. That should give some relief to other emerging market asset classes, because typically when the dollar strengthens, it is bad news for most emerging markets. And moving over to the FNOQs, we are seeing long build up in futures of Adani Enterprises and Interglobe Aviation. There was some bit of short covering in the futures of Indiabulls Housing Finance, Ipca Lab and Balrampur Chini, and we are seeing short build up in futures of Voltas, Godrej Properties, IDFC First Bank and SBI Life. Well, moving over to the newsmakers this morning, Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders. Now, the company has delivered the 5th Scorpion class submarine Vagir to the Indian Navy. Now, this stock has been on fire and has almost trebled in the last 4 months. Minda, which is an auto ancillary company, that has said that it has entered into an agreement with Korea-based Ascentec company, and Minda will design, develop and manufacture and market wheel speed sensors for the Indian markets. Moving on to Hero MotoCorp, the third newsmaker for this morning. The company has launched its X-Pulse 200 4-valve motorbike. This is priced at around 1.26 lakh rupees, and this has been done with the aim to strengthen Hero MotoCorp's offering in the premium segment. And let's move over to the hot brokerage bets this morning. Larsen and Toubro, that's the brokerage pick of this morning. Now, brokerage house Jeffrey is bullish on Larsen and Toubro. It has rated the stock a buy with a price target of 2,455 rupees. Now, the reason for Jeffrey sounding bullish on Larsen and Toubro is that it expects order flows to be quite strong in the current quarter. It's expecting order flows of close to about 55,000 crores. And Jeffries has said that for the 9-month period overall, the growth in order book should be around 24% year on year. It has also said that the company is in a sweet spot because both its domestic business as well as its West Asia business, the prospects for both these businesses appear pretty strong at this point in time. And with that, let's move over to the stocks on our watch list this morning, starting off with Interglobe Aviation. The stock has been steadily trending higher over the last month. It has gained close to about 20%. Now, one of the main reasons that has changed sentiment for aviation sector in general is that crude prices have started falling sharply, and this apart, there's been a strong resumption in both business travel as well as vacation travel. One of the reasons why aviation stocks were under pressure last month was that most of them were facing supply disruptions, both in terms of spare parts as well as aircraft. And in addition to that, there was congestion at the major airports in the country, because of which most aviation companies had cut down on the number of flights. Now, the congestion situation is improving somewhat thanks to measures taken by the aviation ministry. In addition, Indigo in particular has said that it will add 21 more flights to its winter schedule. So, increased number of flights is definitely a big positive in terms of earnings for Indigo, for Interglobe Aviation. Now, brokerage house MK has rated Indigo a buy. It has come out with a buy rating on the stock with a price target of 2,560 rupees. And lastly, we've been seeing a strong spurt in domestic air passenger traffic as well. In November, the numbers were close to about 11% higher year on year. So, on all fronts, things looking good for the aviation sector at this point in time. However, for this year, most companies are expected to report losses. Things are expected, the yields have been improving for aviation companies, but because of high oil prices, they've run up huge losses in the first half of this year. Now, remains to be seen if they will be able to negate that in the second half of the year, which promises to look strong. Jindal Steel is the second stock on our watch list this morning. Now, brokerage house Centrum has downgraded the stock to an add. Now, Jindal Steel has been quite volatile since April, when it went on to touch a high of close to around 580 rupees. After that came the export duty on steel exports, which led to sharp sell-off in metal stocks across the board. So, Jindal Steel also took a fair bit of beating, but since then, since July, the stock has almost made up for most of the losses that it suffered. The stock is now about up about 70% from its low. So, what are the factors driving Jindal Steel at this point in time? So, according to Centrum Brokerage, the EBITDA per ton, which had fallen to close to about 7,500 rupees in during the second quarter, now that may have bottomed for the time being, and things are likely to look better from here on, mainly because of lower prices of coking coal. In addition to that, the product mix has also improved. Volumes are set to go up at about grow at about 11% compounded over the next couple of years. The company also managed its working capital pretty well, as a result of which it was able to reduce its debt by about 600 to 700 crore and fund its capex well. That the market has opened, the Nifty is up 55 points in early trade. Market breadth is pretty strong, 1500 stocks up and less than 300 stocks down at this point. You're seeing good strength in mid-cap stock as well in early trade. The NSE, the Nifty mid-cap index is up about 0.5%. Nifty Bank up close to 0.4%. We've seen good strength in the Sensex also, which is up by close to about 200 points as we speak. So overall, a strong start for the markets. Now remains to be seen if they will be able to retain that gains till the end of this session. And moving back to Jindal Steel, according to Centrum, while it has said a lot of positive things about the stock, one of the key things which will make a difference on whether the stock will get re-rated is that the market is awaiting for signs of prudent capital allocation, and if the company is able to manage that, Centrum says that by FY25, Jindal Steel and Power will become a net cash positive company. And the last stock on our watch list this morning is City Union Bank. The stock had taken a bit of a knock yesterday, it was down about 2.3%. Now the RBI has flagged divergence in additional gross non-performing loans of the company to the tune of about 259 crores. So basically what this means is that there is a dispute between the quantum of additional gross non-performing loans which City Union Bank has reported and what the RBI thinks is right. So accordingly they will have to make those provisions. But according to Investec, which is bullish on the stock, Investec has a price target of 240 rupees for City Union Bank. Investec has retained its buy rating on the stock and also said that this development will not really impact the estimates that Investec has put out for City Union Bank for the current financial year. According to Investec, the bigger risk for City Union Bank at this point in time is the pending RBI approval for the reappointment of Dr. N. Kamakodi, who is the CEO and MD of City Union Bank. Is already been given one extension in 2020. His term now comes up for renewal again in March this year. Well, and with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Opening Bell. Thank you for watching, and please also do send in your feedback. We'll be back with you at 3 p.m. this afternoon. For all news and views and updates, stay logged on to moneycontrol.com.